So here's the next instalment of exposing each and every one of these Sky Sports presenters for their role in the Abu Dhabi FIX. This is Craig Slater. This is the evening of the Abu Dhabi race, the aftermath. You'll recognise this from where Kravitz does his Ted's notebook, walking up and down here. So this is the presentation that Craig Slater gave that evening when he talks about Mercedes' intention to lodge an appeal and the process of that.
Mercedes have issued something called a notice of intention to appeal, which is the first step in trying to take this case in front of the FIA's Court of Appeal, and it gives them 96 hours to make that submission. So they've bought themselves some time to think about it, to decide if they want to take it any further. Lewis Hamilton has left the Yas Marina circuit in the last few minutes. This was him leaving. He let us know he didn't want to say anything, and he strolled out with his media officer and got in a car and has driven away from this circuit. But the way he conducted himself tonight, I thought was fantastic, and that's the way he always does. He was first to congratulate Max, and he took the situation with great equanimity. I've spoken to his father, Anthony Hamilton, who also didn't want to speak on camera this evening, and said, we carry on, that's what we do, we'll hold our heads high and we'll carry on. But it's a bitter pill for them tonight, because Lewis was the boss in this race. He was well clear, he was the quicker driver, he was 8 seconds ahead
He was 12 seconds ahead with 5 laps to go
of Max Verstappen. It was a series of unfortunate events in terms of how his race unfolded.
It was a series of unfortunate events. No, it wasn't. It was a series of contrived events manufactured for the desired outcome. Don't try and put this across as just being unfortunate. Random circumstances conspired against him. It's just unfortunate. Bollocks! So don't lie to people. Okay? It was contrived. Now also, look at this guy's eyes. Look who's off camera. Who's looking at him? Right? Who is trying to get his attention?
That deprived him of the World Championship this evening. But that is motor racing. It's unsatisfactory at times when that kind of thing happens, but it is par for the course. And
I'm going to rewind that, but that's motor racing. It's unfortunate, but it is par for the course. As if it's normal. As if it's normal. Let me just play that bit again.
It was a series of unfortunate events in terms of how his race unfolded that deprived him of the World Championship this evening. But that is motor racing. It's unsatisfactory at times when that kind of thing happens, but it is par for the course. And over a long season, over 22 races, to a degree, these things even themselves out. And a lot of happy Red Bull staff leaving at the moment.
Oh, but it's par for the course, these things happen. But over the course of the season, these things even themselves out. Okay? All of these things that you see as conflict in the comment section, where have they originated from? Who has been parroting this shit that comes from the mouths of the Sky Sports presenters? Because that's what it is. They're the people that have put forward this narrative. They're the people that the strap-on fans just parrot going, oh yeah, over the course of the season, Max had this go wrong, this go wrong, this go wrong, so this evens it out. It's all fair. It's all fine. It's not. Don't go and compare things that took place in that season with what took place to manufacture the outcome of that race. They in no way compare. Disgusting. The bit that I commented about his eyes, I was too early on that. You'll see shortly he is looking off screen, so he is looking to his left. So as you're looking at the screen, towards the right of the screen, in a second you'll see it.
That party will go on for some time, but you can't begrudge Max Verstappen. And if Lewis Hamilton can't begrudge Max Verstappen, I'm sure few will. He is the champion.
If Lewis Hamilton can't begrudge Max Verstappen, then I'm sure the rest of you kind of think. Lewis Hamilton was maintaining dignity. He was trying to display the characteristics of a sportsman in being gracious in defeat. He wasn't defeated. He was cheated, systematically cheated out of it. But rather than create a scene, he took it. He took it. He was bigger than everybody. He knew what had gone on, but he took it. He set an example of how to conduct yourself with dignity, how to stand in front of corruption and cheating, and stand there as a man of dignity and walk away with his head held high. So it's not a case of accepting the situation. It's a way of showing the world the man who he is, and not allowing their actions to affect the way that he himself seeks to present himself, and seeks to prevent him being the man that he wants to be. That's what Lewis Hamilton did. Okay? He doesn't have to, it's not as though he's accepting Max as being the champion. That might be publicly what it's about. But Lewis Hamilton knows he won the 2021 championship. He knows he's an 8-time world champion. And the world needs to recognise that. So don't give us this crap, Slater. All right? Because that's all part of the narrative as well. Oh, Lewis Hamilton has accepted it, so everybody else, you need to accept it and move on as well. Because if Lewis can move on from it, the rest of you can move on from it too. Because if we all move on from it, this all gets shoved under the carpet. We don't get exposed as being frauds. Liberty Media don't get exposed as being frauds. Red Bull don't get exposed as being frauds. We can kind of just pin it all on the FIA and say it was a human error. And then we'll all move on. We've all made billions and we can continue on with our corruption. No, we can see through it. And we're going to keep calling it out until everything gets exposed and until you bastards are brought to justice. Simple as that.
Tonight, but let's see if Mercedes take this further. They haven't issued an appeal. They've merely, just to be clear, bought themselves time to make that appeal. They've got 96 hours now, so until Thursday, to formally protest what the stewards have decided tonight.
Now, Craig, is this 96 hours that we're hearing about, is this because on Thursday, that is when the official prize giving is, and beyond that, they cannot then further appeal the decision? Is that correct?
The 96 hours is standard. It's a coincidence that it chimes with the official prize-giving ceremony, which Lewis Hamilton, by the way, would be expected to attend as the second-place driver in the championship, and Valtteri Bottas in third place as well. Mercedes winning the Constructors' Championship this evening, but no celebrations here for that.
Again, his body language, the little glances he was giving, the nods of his head, it seemed to me that he was taking direction or you know, almost relaying some information to somebody off camera to that. Okay, might be being a bit sensitive, don't know, but that just seemed a little bit of a strange. He certainly wasn't focused on presenting, I didn't feel. Anyway.
The 96 hours is standard with a notice of intention to appeal. Now, after Thursday, they can't do anything within the FIA system. If they wanted to, they could take this to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. However, I haven't heard a great deal from Mercedes yet.
So why are you downplaying this? Why are you downplaying it as you go, yeah, I mean, they could do that. This is the most at that stage, controversial ending to a sporting season. Okay? At this stage, we had not delved in to the truly corrupt nature of it, but what we still knew was that it was far from right. The rules had been broken to manufacture that outcome, and therefore, the right course of action to take is to ensure that the correct thing was done. Okay? So it would be common sense, it would be normal practice for the affected party, the affected team, to actually take the right course of action to ensure the right outcome. So, why are you downplaying this? Why are you not saying it? Well, we can imagine that Mercedes are going to actually lodge this appeal because clearly something has taken place that has changed the outcome of this event. Okay, had the rules been followed, Lewis Hamilton would be the champion now, and clearly there is a process that Mercedes can follow to ensure that that is actually done correctly. But you're not presenting like that, are you, Slater? It's all a bit downbeat. It's all a bit, well, will Mercedes, they've got 48 hours to present to the FIA to decide whether they want to lodge an appeal. And I guess that after that, they could go to the Court of Arbitration to Sport, but what do you know? What do you know? And I'll tell you what you know. You know that this entire thing is contrived as an entity. The whole sport of Formula One is in on this, and that includes all of the teams, the FIA, and all of the media. And why you're all in on this is because you knew that this event was being broadcast to a global audience of 108 million people, the biggest ever audience for Formula One. And with it brings a shitload of money. The extra revenue for the value of this, due to having all this audience on all this exposure for all of these brands, it is worth so much money, which means that money gets distributed amongst all of the teams. All of the sponsors that sponsor those teams benefit from it because they all get greater global exposure for their brands. Everybody that is a stakeholder in Formula One benefits from this. They benefit financially from it. So they know that because everybody has benefited from it, none of them is going to say anything about it. They're all just going to spiel out the narrative, say as little as possible, not incriminate anybody, and just do nothing and hope that it'll just pass away. But all of their bank balances increase. That's what you know. And you actually know that that is one of the considerations of Mercedes. Because if Mercedes actually take this to an appeal, if Mercedes expose the truth, then Mercedes will be responsible for bringing down the value of Formula One, exposing the sport, turning away spectators, because spectators won't stick around if they know that it's a fake show, right? And then Mercedes would have been responsible for all of the other teams losing money, because a lot of sponsors wouldn't have wanted to associate themselves with a corrupt sport. It's not a good look. So Mercedes have kept quiet as well. They've been complicit with the corruption by not exposing it. But you know that, and that's why you're presenting like this.
In terms of gauging their appetite for all of that. So let's just see what happens. I'd say more likely in the next 24 to 48 hours, but it may be that they read what the stewards have come up with, which effectively is, as we've all observed, hands a degree of governance over the rules, or even leeway to the race director, as opposed to the actual letter of the regulations themselves.
You're saying the race director can just freestyle it and doesn't have to actually go by the rules of the sport. The stewards have basically said, the race can be governed by just what the race director decides he wants to do without really following the rules. Look at what you're saying, man. Absolutely ridiculous. But again, you're putting forward that narrative, which is all part of the preconceived plan. This is the spiel. This is the bullshit we're going to feed people. Okay? You don't get this in other sport. If there's any controversy, you call out what the rules are. This is what the rules are. What is going on here? Let me just rewind that again, because it's just ridiculous what you're saying.
Maybe that they read what the stewards have come up with, which effectively is, as we've all observed, hands a degree of governance over the rules, or even leeway to the race director, as opposed to the actual letter of the regulations themselves. That is something which will need looked at and examining post-season, because I think it's left a lot of people unsatisfactory. One or two insiders at Mercedes say, how can you have a race if you're not racing to the rules as they appear in the code? And that's what they...
Yeah. Mercedes are saying, well, how can you... How about everybody saying that? It's not just Mercedes' opinion, that how on earth can you actually involve yourself in a sport, conduct yourself within those parameters, and then somebody change them parameters? Well, actually, what is it you're competing in? You can't do that. That sport is conducted in accordance with then preset parameters. Otherwise, what is it you're doing? It's quite simple. Look, you're holding a microphone that says Sky Sports. You're presenting on a sport. What are you presenting? You're presenting validation for something that is corrupt. It is ridiculous.
They feel has fallen by the wayside and cost them tonight.
Mercedes feel it's fallen by the wayside and cost them tonight. So again, what you're doing is, they're the ones that feel aggrieved by this, and that's what they feel. They'll feel they've been disadvantaged. Why are you not calling it out and say this entire situation is wrong? They rightfully feel that, because that is exactly what has taken place. But no, let's just say, oh yeah, they feel like that. So there's old strap-on fans can go, oh, stop crying, Mercedes. These twats don't know what the word crying means, right? But this is what you do. You turn people against them. Oh, it's just Mercedes saying this. It's just Mercedes moaning about this. Oh, you weren't moaning when you were winning, were you, Mercedes? It's not that at all. It's about sport. It's about clear rules of sport that have been broken to manufacture a different outcome. The world should be outraged about that. And look at what you are, Slater. You're not outraged, are you? You're just trying to get us to say, oh, yeah, they just feel a bit bad about this, don't they? Yeah, you can kind of see where they're coming from on that, but, this is motorsport, isn't it? That's kind of par for the course.
Craig, I want to ask you about Toto Wolff, because we've heard from the parties involved at Red Bull, which you would expect. We've just seen shots of Lewis Hamilton there for the first time. Toto Wolff seems to be particularly elusive.
Now what's he doing? Now he's on his phone. Is he checking his Tinder matches? Or is he reading the script? Is somebody saying, right, talk about it like this. This is what you've got to say. Don't say this. I don't know. Watch him on his phone now. This isn't professional. This isn't what a journalist, what a TV presenter should be doing when they're being interviewed on the telly. What's he doing on his phone?
When reading about the steward's decision as well and who was summoned, the parties involved in that second protest, on behalf of Mercedes, Toto Wolff wasn't there. Ron Meadows, Andrew Chauvelin and Paul Harris. On behalf of Red Bull was Jonathan...
So let's just go for that. Toto Wolff wasn't even there in the steward's appeal. If you are the team principal and you are going into the most significant appeal ever in the history of the sport, if your team has been impacted in that, surely you're going to put yourself there. I don't know what you're doing there, Toto. I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, we'll listen to what old Craig Slater goes, because he is the person I'm exposing in this one. But Mercedes are not guilt-free.
Wheatley, Christian Horner, Adrian Newey. Can we read it into anything about the fact that Toto Wolff wasn't there, and where do we think he is, or what
So
do you think his state is?
Tonight, I'm bitterly disappointed for you, but nothing. Well, there he's gone now. I'm just turning to him. He's shaking his head, and he's left the scene without saying anything, with his wife's offer.
Oh, there you go. You present yourself as saying, I'm bitterly disappointed for you, Toto. But the reality is, them guys know that you're corrupt as well. Okay? So you can be offering your condolences and your commiseration, Slater, but they've got no time for you because they know that you're in on the fix. You are presenting to validate the fix. That's a fact. Mercedes do know, okay? They will have seen what's going on and they will realise what's being contrived around them. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why they know in this controlled media that we live in, whatever they say is going to be skewed and presented your way to vilify them, to present them in a certain way rather than the truth. Because the truth still, all this time afterwards, has never been presented by mainstream media. And I have personally contacted virtually every single mainstream media in the UK. I've explained the situation to them. Even the BBC, the Andrew Benson, the BBC's chief correspondent, he is corrupt as well because he just follows a narrative. That man's a fluffer for the Red Bull team, right? None of the media present this correctly. None of them. And Mercedes know that. And they're just towing the line, keeping the wealth in the sport rather than exposing the sport for what it is. So they're guilty, but they also know that you're corrupt, Sky. So, you know, they're just ignoring you at this stage.
Tuesday there as well, but you can see he's not happy, and I would gauge from that there is a seriousness to the rather more seriousness than I had just intimated to you that indeed Mercedes might take this further, because Toto Wolff is a serious guy, and Anthony Hamilton's just leaving the scene. And I'll say goodbye to you, Anthony, at least anyway, and look after yourself. But I know he doesn't want to speak, but lovely to see you as always.
So, if we come out of that and go back to my channel, and this links on from these couple here, Karun Chandok, his role, Martin Brundle, his role, and I'm going to continue. I've got another idea for a couple of videos that I might interdisperse within them, but each and every one of these Sky Sports presenters has just served to validate. None of them have called out the truth. They've all presented it a certain way. They've all introduced aspects to this which aren't authentic, aren't the way that the situation should be dealt with, and have they've conducted themselves to condition people to accept the narrative. That's what they've been paid to do. That's what they've served to do. You're all mercenaries. You've done it for dirty money. You're all filthy. Lots more to come. See you soon.